Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joshsnipes. I'm not going to ask you anything for you guys today because I'm just going to give back to you guys with this video, this short intro, hopefully. And without further ado, we're going to be taking a look at Siege Academy today. Siege Academy is a subreddit where you, the viewer, can go ask for tips, give some advice, or even give your own tips and advice if you so choose. And that's the best thing about this. There's competitive players, ranked players. You got content creators like me or Chaos X that are on there all the time. So without further ado, though, let's hop right into today's topics. I pulled these all off of the subreddit, and I'm just going to be going over my thoughts on these because I feel like these are some interesting topics to talk about, or it's just some interesting tips I can go over with you guys if you haven't already seen them. So the first question is Iana OP? And then he went on to sort of give you some ideas and things of why he thinks Iana is OP. And I feel like I did address this when I actually saw the second post that he had beyond this, but the first post really intrigued me because when I was reading through it, I really thought about it. Just the idea that someone has not necessarily an infinite hologram, you know, I mean, she can't just keep using it repeatedly. There is a cooldown period, but there was no amount to what exactly, how many times she can actually use this hologram. So there is that cooldown, but it's kind of like Twitch's shock drone where it has to build back up and then you can use it. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I do think, though, in the current meta that we're in, more so, and I'm thinking at the higher level of Siege, not necessarily, you know, in your lower levels. I feel like lower ranks, sort of like gold and silver and below, tend to have a lot of issues with using drones, using intel properly, and actually working with intel. But, you know, you start to get into your plats, definitely into your diamonds and champions, definitely in comp, you will see a lot of intel get used and a lot of camera work that gets used. And that's honestly where Iana is. That's where she fits. Now, one thing I also want to point out about Iana, she has frag grenades or smoke grenades as her two, you know, equipment to choose, or two grenades to choose from. And this is where I really think that she's going to thrive. The fact that you have the choice between frag grenades and smoke grenades really opens up some options for your team in terms of bringing this operator. The thing is, right now in the current meta that we're in, it's a lot of utility that you have to clear. You have to do a lot of utility dump to get rid of deployable shields, barbed wire, reinforced walls, castled doorways, you know, everything that we have to deal with when you're attacking a site. But the thing is, if you have a Iana and she's using frag grenades, you at least have that operator that can still destroy utility. If they ever end up switching frag grenades off of her, which I don't know why exactly they would, but they like to change things up every now and then, I do see that she would probably have a very big drop in her pick rate, because right now, as useful as smokes are, I feel like a lot of teams definitely run Capitao, so I don't feel like you'll need smokes all that often, but it really comes down to what your team is running in their comp. The biggest thing that I can see Iana really having an impact on, and the things that she does for teams, is the fact that she actually has the ability to use two drones and her hologram. So theoretically, one of those drones can be a pre-placed drone or a pre-placed flank drone or something of the likes. And then you have another drone to actually drone out of sight, you know, drone into something. And then you have your hologram to do that exact same thing. And think about this. If someone is running behind your hologram, like they normally would with a drone, and a defender is sitting in that room that you didn't necessarily know exactly where he was, you can give that call out, have your teammate follow up your hologram getting shot, and they can follow it straight in. Now, the thing to point out is, obviously, the hologram doesn't set off any traps, doesn't make too much noise in terms of, you know, Legion mines going off or getting echo blasted or something like that, but she does look and sound like Iana, so you wouldn't know if it is or isn't Iana without actually shooting it, so you have to shoot the hologram. But one last thing that I want to actually mention too is that mute is actually a pretty decent counter for Iana as well. If you end up getting stuck in a mute jammer, that will destroy the hologram, but other than that, Iana is a pretty good and strong character that I would like to see more and more in comp. I feel like she's going to get a lot of use, but I do not think that she's OP. I feel like it takes a lot of team coordination to actually get the full use out of her. Now, the next question is, how do I roam as a defender? Now, this person was playing a Rook Dock sort of anchor on site. They really didn't ever leave site, and now they're trying to get into roaming. Now, when I talk about roaming, I'm going to be talking about, you know, staying far off site, staying far away, either below or under a site possibly, not necessarily that lurking role that we see some people use where you're pretty dang close to site and you're not going that far. You're probably like one doorway away from the actual site. But the key thing about roaming is that the idea is you want to hold off the attack for as long as possible. You don't want to die, and your goal is to waste as much time as possible. If you can take someone down with you, you did perfect and you did your job. But you really honestly want to waste anywhere from a minute to 2 minutes worth of time. You're not going to always get to that last minute, because usually in that last minute, teams are going to start redirecting all their focus to actually trying to just get to site. So you might not be dealt with all the time, but the key thing, again, is you need to waste time. And one of my favorite things to play with is I love using Mozzie as a roamer, as well as people like Vigil, Valkyrie, Jaeger, Bandit when you don't have a site that you actually need to use him for, to hold a garage or hold a main wall. So every once in a while you get to use Bandit too. But having a C4 or having just that ability to have some intelligence or just the firepower while you're roaming really helps. There's so many different options and ways. I would say anyone who's a 2-speed, 3-speed, you can normally roam with. There's a couple exceptions here and there, but for the most part, you can do it. Now, the last thing I want to say about roamers is that when you are roaming, you're going to have to communicate with your team. And honestly, if you can, don't roam by yourself. Roaming by yourself will usually end up getting killed because there's no one to really play off of. You're just playing by yourself. And a good team will be able to send in 2, 3, maybe even 4 people to take out one player who's roaming above or below a site. That might become a problem if they don't clear him out ahead of time. Now, the next question is, what's the best way to play Blackbeard? Should I either play the objective or support the team? Now, generally speaking, I would say that Blackbeard is more of a support attacker because of the fact that he's so slow when he has his shield on. And most of the time, the best use you're going to get out of Blackbeard is actually holding down, a hallway, a doorway, or even just sitting on a window outside of sight and just watching over someone who's planting. These are the kinds of things that a Blackbeard will do a lot of the time. It's kind of similar to Glaz when Glaz had the thermal scope that didn't go away if he moved. It really helped. But with Blackbeard, it's pretty much the same thing. You're going to be watching over sight essentially, especially as the execute goes down, because you can take a headshot. And if you're holding a tight angle, or if you're holding an angle where only your head is actually popping out, you're going to survive those first couple of bullets, assuming your shield doesn't get broken. So you're going to be in a better chance to actually fight that 1v1 with someone who's trying to retake sight. Overall, though, I would say he's better at supporting the team. Again, he can drone a lot more efficiently than he can really run, So he's not so much for the person who's going to put the plant down or even entry frag into sight. He's going to be the person that is helping you execute on the site and helping you hold down that site. Luckily, this one's pretty quick, but the next question is, why do you shoot big holes in soft walls and then reinforce after? Now, normally what you want to do is you want to sort of open up a soft wall. So think you're playing cache CCTV on Clubhouse. That main wall that faces the outside, you want to open that up and then reinforce it. What that does essentially is it allows the Bandit or Kaid to be able to hear a lot easier when they're trying to put down their battery or the Electro Claw. It makes things a ton more easier even when you're not using it for a Bandit or Kaid. But let's say maybe you're just using that reinforced wall as a way to defend your back, and you need to know when someone's about to put some sort of utility, either a Hibana or a Thermite, even a Maverick. You need to be able to hear it, and it's a lot easier to hear when you actually make a pre-placed hole before you reinforce it. So that's just a little tip. I went over this in the 5 tips video that I made, and I'll link that down below. Basically 5 ways to get better a lot faster than normal. That is one of the tips that I mentioned, though, is that using sound to your advantage is such a huge thing, and putting holes in the walls before you reinforce it is one of the key ways to do that. Now, the last question of the video is, how should each role in a comp team drone? Now, when it comes down to you and your team, I'm just going to go based off of the fact that you're running a 5-stack, whether or not you actually playing competitive, meaning if you're playing Go 4s, you're playing CL, or just playing in some amateur league, or if you're just playing, 5-stack, you and a bunch of gunners are just playing some ranked, it kind of works the same. Because I feel like if you develop strats and you learn how to play with each other, it'll work a lot easier than if you're trying to just wing it every single time you play in a round. But anyways, the first thing that I want to mention is that normally your composition will be comprised of 2 entries, probably 1 or 2 flexes, and normally you'll have a support that'll probably be your hard breach. I'd say most, if not all, of the sites need some sort of hard breach, so normally you'll either bring a Hibana, a Maverick, or a Thermite, or some mixture of all of those. Now, typically what you want to do is you want your flex or your support, or both, to drone in your entries. Your entries are basically going to clear out behind your drone So they're going to be following up any call out that comes from that drone. So let's say you drone out a room that has one entrance into it. They're going to hold down that doorway, or they're going to peek into the roamer that might be there. The key thing is, though, normally you want to drone from both sides of the map at the same time, or make one push on a map like Oregon. So it just depends on how you want to take it. But overall, the more team composition you have and the better you guys work together, this will be a lot easier. I don't think drones are necessary to one role, but typically the standard thing that most people do is normally the hard support will drone in, and normally one or two of the flexes will drone in for each other or in for the entries. This makes it the easiest way for the entries to stay alive and for you to have the most information going into a room that you don't necessarily know everything about. Now that's it for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys found the Siege Academy really helpful. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down there, or go join the Discord, or you can DM me on Twitter. I get DMs every so often, but normally Discord and the comments is the fastest way that I'll get to answer you. But without further ado, that's going to wrap things up for today, and this is going to be Joshsnipes signing off.
50 seconds left.
That's the play.
4 last
That's the
operator
play.
standing.
I'll be watching.
No way.
Op 4 neutralized. Mission successful.
Bro.